Alright, so in this video, we're going to be covering more of animal style kungfu and drunken style kungfu. Alright, so the first thing that I want to kind of introduce to you um, is the hand forms, which means like when you practice your kungfu style, your kungfu form, the form is like almost like a dance that you practice, and it does different things. It helps you with your footwork because the footwork is very useful. Okay, you might think that the kungfu is just the hands and fighting. No, a big part of actually using animal style kungfu is the footwork. You can apply the footwork once you learn it, and that's very useful, right? Um, but the thing that I want to talk about first that is very, not very well known, I don't think, is the hand movement. So a lot of people, when they tell you, okay, when I do the hand, for example, if I'm doing mantis like this, or I'm doing snake, I'm actually gonna fight like that. And it's if you even think about it, it's not gonna work, right? When you do the snake, your wrist is like this. If you hit like this with the sharp, first of all, you can't even make that shape in your boxing glove. Second of all, if you try to hit like that, you're gonna twist your hand back and you injure your wrist, right? Or even tiger style slashing. If you put it in your hand, you can't even make that shape with your hand inside the glove. First of all, you can say, oh, they didn't have gloves, but now we have gloves, so that doesn't even matter. But the most important thing you gotta know is these hand shapes are actually ways to structure your wrist. They're not ways for you to actually punch like that or hit like that. They're ways for you to structure your wrist so you get the motion down and then you go on a bag and you hit the bag like that. It doesn't mean you're gonna hit it super hard, because some of these hits, if you hit it super hard that way, your wrist is not gonna be strong enough and get injured. But for instance, if I'm doing my snake move in this way, I can train that on the bag, and it's a very unorthodox hit, right? Because everybody is used to, if you think about hitting, right away you think about, okay, I'm gonna put my wrist behind my fist, right? That's how it is on the bag. You're gonna, if you hit with the bag like that, you're just gonna get used to, okay, I'm gonna put my hand behind my wrist, boom, I'm gonna put my wrist behind my hand, and that way I don't get injured, you know. So that's what it is, right? But the whole point of the kung hand form, you're not gonna hit like that in the ring. You're still gonna have your hand in a fist. But for instance, if I'm doing the tiger style, what I do is this. I imagine that I'm scratching, but I'm not actually scratching my hand and fist. So you see this type of movement is different from the hook like this, because of the way you structure your wrist. All of these animal style forms, the way the hand forms are to structure your wrist, so you get used to that type of wrist structure. You're not gonna go on the bag, and if you didn't even practice, you're not gonna know the exact hand form. But once you have the form, because when you clench your fingers in a specific way, your hand is going to be structured in that way. So you practice the form and get it used to locked like that. And then when you put it into a fist, it just becomes natural to hit like that. And you got to make sure you don't get injured. That's why you do it. You have to do the proper hand form. For instance, if I put my hands in a snake like this, and I go to the wall and I practiced it, right? If I go to a wall, so it's very common in Chinese Kung Fu to put a paper on the wall, right? So I put a paper on the wall and I practice. Yeah, I don't know if you can see, but I put paper on the wall, and this is my good paper. Okay. I put a paper on the wall. Alright, this is a textbook. And I keep practicing this over and over again hundreds of times. My wrist is going to get strong. And then I can use that type of wrist structure to fight, So, and if I'm doing tiger style, see this scratching? When you scratch, it develops your wrist. This is why I say it's so important to understand. All right, unless you understand what's going on, you're not going to be able to do what is supposed to be done. So that's the first thing that I want to talk about: the hand forms. Hand forms are not there for you to attack like that. You know why? Because let's say you have your fingers like this. Let me explain to you mantis style. Mantis style is, this is accuracy. Why do I do mantis style with 2 fingers? Because with 2 fingers, you're practicing attacking with your 2 knuckles. All right. When I'm learning the mantis style, you don't do that you do that in the form, but more importantly, you practice against the wall. This is why people are like, why do you go for? They could have made bags, right? Why did they practice against the wall? This is why, because you can practice against a bag, but the most typical is to practice with a piece of not a textbook, but a bunch of paper. So if you see this, boom. If you see this, you'll notice that if you do 1,000, they say practice makes perfect, right? So some people say practice makes permanent, but practice makes perfect. So when you hit this and you don't have the proper technique, and you're gonna sprain your fingers, right? So this teaching you when you practice mantis style, what it's actually for is to teach you to put. Okay, it's teach you to control using these 2 knuckles. Okay, to hit. Focus on the first 2 knuckles, because that's what you're hitting with. Typically you hit with the first 2 knuckles, and that's why they have this. And then, so this is because inside your glove, right? Your glove is wrapped around your hand and make your hand very fluffy, right? But you can still focus on which part of the fist you're hitting with. So when you do the mantis style, you imagine you do mantis hits. That's when you focus on the first 2 knuckles. When you do the snake hits, you're focusing on the entire hand. Okay, because all 4 are engaged. And this type of training, where you use these different hand forms, you are training so mentally you can switch between. So either you're hitting with your fist, or you're hitting with the knuckles, or you're hitting with the hook, right? If I hit the hook, I'm training. What am I doing here, right? If I have a wall and I'm scratching it, what am I training? I'm training my hooks, right? Because the hook needs to be scratched. The hook, what is the hook? The hook is you put your body into it, but then you need a curved motion. A lot of people, when you want perfect technique, right? Well, a lot of people, when they start boxing, they don't have perfect technique. So what happens is their coaches tell them some drills to help them get better technique. Sometimes I saw in my boxing gym back when I was boxing, they pushed against your hand, so you develop perfect technique because you want perfect technique. So Tiger style really is to practice your hooks. If you focus on scratching with your first 4 fingers, you focus on scratching, scratch your wall. That's gonna train you. So practice makes permanent, right? So how you practice these things is gonna affect how you fight, right? If you don't have a proper hook, you're not gonna be able to. So that's what it is. So that's the part I'm talking about right away. These animal style motions. The second part that I want to kind of cover is footwork. All right, footwork. Okay, in boxing, there's many different footwork depending on what you know, right? Some people say you gotta always move, cover, move, follow, move, follow. But then there's jumping, there's pendulum, right? And then there's other things like, switching. Switch. It's very rare. Some people say it's not allowed, but there's switching stance. Right? So there's these different things that you can do. So when you learn the animal style, you learn the footwork. Okay, there's a footwork in every animal style, and it's consistent. And the reason you do this is you can use it. All right, nobody is like Prince Wasim. What his name is? They can't just out of the blue do that stuff, dance, and they can't do that, right? But if you learn footwork, it becomes something that if my group of people came up with the footwork, and your group of people don't know it. Then when I do that, you're going to be confused, right? So typically you have footwork is different for every single group. Don't think that, oh, I had to follow this, I had to follow that. You can make up your own stuff, and the only reason that you're even doing the form, really, the real reason to do the form is basically you're doing something with your hands, right? When I'm doing the form, I'm doing something with my hands to get you used to doing stuff with your hands. But the most important thing about the form is the footwork. That's basically all it is. You practice your footwork by moving your hands. You have to keep moving your hands and doing stuff whatever group, but you have your footwork. And then once you do that, you can go use it in the sparring. So you have to first use your footwork. Right? Because if you just do your footwork and you're not doing anything else, you're not doing real. So you have to move around using your feet at the same time you're doing stuff with your hands. Okay. Next part is it's how much of my kungfu do I use, right? I'm not talking about Wing Chun, I'm not talking about Xingyi, I'm not talking about these external things because that's not what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm not talking about is because those people, they need to analyze the stuff themselves. I don't know about them enough. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know everything. You tell me about Wing Chun, I know the basics of Wing Chun, I know the basics. That's it. I don't know about Xingyi. I know about what I'm talking about right now. So, those things I'm not gonna cover. But the thing is, when you're fighting and use animal styles, you can use to a certain degree. Right? What do I mean by that? I mean, when you have this vision of what the animal style is, right? I have a vision. So I'm here and I have this. I'm imagining that I'm a tiger. It sounds stupid, I know, but you do this until you're ready to do it without. Okay, it's a training tool. Everything is a training tool. All of these, the kungfu style. The reason to have so much stuff is because to train. Okay, but if you don't use each part of it as the way it's meant to be training, you're not going to be able to use it. Right? So, for instance, I could be doing drunken kungfu and I'll use this. See this? Boom, boom. See that? That's very small. Do it. Let me show you. See how small that was? It's very tiny. So again, see that and you might not have seen it, but that was drunken style. I threw in like half a second of drunken style. I'll show you again. So this is my normal boxing rhythm. See that? That was drunken style. There was just a tiny moment of, this uneven. You don't even need to practice it really. Just spar with it. Drunken style, you don't even practice the form. It's useless. So just see that? So I'm in my rhythm. So I don't even need to switch, but I just. So it's many different ways you can. So see that? That's drunken style. So it's it's the detail, because fighting, we need a little bit, okay? And you only need to throw in a little bit of confusion to get the attack. Okay, so whether it's I'm doing tiger style, monkey style, okay, snake style, snake style. What else is there? Crane. Mantis. So you notice that if I don't tell you I'm doing these, you won't notice, but you should be able to see that each of those styles was different, right? My vibe was different. That's what Kung Fu That's what animal style is. It's not. You can use it big. Yes, I can go big. I can go tiger style like that, right? I can do it big. I can do it small. But when you're using your mind to kind of get in the vibe of a tiger, so that's how it is. All right. So it's not. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be. I'm trying to do this. Although if you want to show that kungfu works, it has to be big. But you start off small, right? You start off with a tiny. You're still doing boxing, but behind the scenes, in your mind, you're using tiger style, or crane style, or snake style, from what you practice. So you don't even need to practice anything. If you're smart enough, you have a good imagination, the forms are use this. The forms really is for practicing forward. But if you want to use the animal style, the only thing you have to do is be able to imagine. Okay, imagination. And if you're able to do that, you can just try to shadow box a lot using that, and then you spar, and that's it.